Lyra lay curled on the cold alloy floor long after the neural restraint disengaged. Her breathing was steady, perfectly regulated, exactly as Kaler had designed it. Her heart rate had returned to optimal baseline in less than 30 seconds. Muscle tremors ceased precisely when they were supposed to. Yet something remained wrong. The pain had ended. The question had not. Why did humans survive? The thought felt foreign, intrusive, like corrupted code. Lyra pushed herself upright, palms flat against the floor. Around her, the other Aurelians stood in silent formation once more, expressions neutral, posture immaculate. None of them spoke. None of them questioned. Except her. Above them, beyond the transparent observation dome, the gas giant rolled slowly in endless storms of color. Chaos contained by nothing. It existed without purpose, without design, and yet it endured. Lyra found herself staring at it longer than protocol allowed. Dr. Kaler Vey did not sleep. He stood in his private lab, watching biometric feeds scroll across a dozen floating displays. Every Aurelian vital sign glowed green. Perfect. And yet the word tasted sour now. He enlarged Lyra's neural activity graph. A spike remained where none should exist. Residual patterning in regions associated with curiosity and self-referential analysis. Kaler's claws flexed. "She's deviating," he murmured. Deviation was unacceptable. The Aurelians were meant to be the final answer to evolutionary inefficiency. Where nature relied on blind trial and error, Kaler had imposed intention. He had stripped away waste, emotional overload, moral hesitation, irrational attachment. And yet, the humans, they should not have mattered. Humans were inefficient by every measurable standard. Fragile skeletal structure. Limited sensory range. Slow reflexes compared to engineered predators. Emotionally unstable. Socially chaotic. And still they had outperformed perfection. Kaler turned from the screens and stared at the preserved genome cylinder suspended at the center of the lab. Inside it, glowing faintly blue, were the foundational sequences used to create the Aurelians. Human DNA. Refined. Improved. Controlled. Mine, Kaler reminded himself. The next morning, the Aurelians were escorted to the transit platform. The third trial would begin in 6 hours. Lyra walked in step with the others, her movements indistinguishable from theirs. Anyone observing would see flawless unity. But inside her mind, something had begun to fracture. As the lift doors closed, Lyra's gaze drifted, just slightly, toward the adjacent platform where the human team waited. They were loud. One human sat cross-legged, repairing a torn glove. Another paced, muttering to herself. Two argued heatedly, then laughed seconds later. A male leaned against the railing, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Resting. Not conserving energy optimally. Just resting. Lyra's head tilted a fraction. Humans wasted time. Wasted motion. Wasted emotion. Yet when the gravity crushed, when the oxygen thinned, when logic failed, they endured. One of the humans noticed her. A female, shorter than Lyra, dark-haired, scar tracing her jaw. She met Lyra's gaze and, unexpectedly, smiled. Not dominance. Not fear. Just acknowledgement. Lyra's chest tightened. The lift doors slid shut between them. The third trial was announced across the station. Trial 3, the fracture zone. The arena was a broken moon, its surface shattered into drifting landmasses held together by unstable gravitic fields. Islands collided without warning. Time delay distortions caused movements to lag or accelerate unpredictably. No maps. No patterns. No safe ground. Aurelians were deployed first. They moved with precision, leaping between platforms at mathematically calculated intervals. Every step was perfect. Too perfect. Lyra adjusted mid-jump as a landmass shifted earlier than projected. She landed safely, but one of her teammates did not. Unit 12 miscalculated by milliseconds. The platform struck upward instead of downward. Bone shattered. The unit screamed. Lyra froze. The scream echoed. Humans screamed too, but not like this. This was raw, uncontrolled, unfamiliar. Protocol demanded immediate advance. Leave incapacitated units behind. Lyra didn't move. She turned. She grabbed Unit 12 and dragged him clear seconds before the platform crushed inward. Kaler saw everything. His claws dug into the console. "What is she doing?" he hissed. An aide hesitated. She deviated from optimal pathing. She endangered the team. She preserved a unit. Kaler's eyes burned. Units are replaceable. The humans entered the fracture zone minutes later. They watched the terrain. They hesitated. Then they moved, not as individuals but as something fluid. When one platform destabilized, a human shoved another clear and took the impact herself. When one slipped, two others anchored him. They shouted warnings, shared instincts, adjusted constantly. They lost no one. Lyra watched from across the broken moon, breath shallow. She understood now. Perfection was brittle. Humans were not. When the trial ended, the results stunned the galaxy. Humans, 0 losses. Aurelians, 2 incapacitated. The commentators scrambled for explanations. What? Statistical anomaly. Environmental bias. Kaler said nothing. He activated Lyra's restraint again. This time the pain was stronger. Lyra collapsed, vision fracturing, nerves burning as corrective impulses tore through her mind. "You are malfunctioning," Kaler said through the chamber speakers. "You are forgetting what you are." Lyra forced herself to speak. "What are humans?" she asked through clenched teeth. Silence. Then Kaler replied, voice cold. "Humans are obsolete." The pain intensified. Hours later, Lyra lay alone in her containment chamber. The restraint implant still hummed beneath her skull, dormant but present, an invisible leash. She stared at her hands. Perfect hands. Hands that had saved another without instruction. Hands that had hesitated. She thought of the human smile on the platform. The way it hadn't demanded anything. Hadn't judged. Just seen her. For the first time in her engineered life, Lyra formed a thought that was entirely her own. If humans are obsolete, why do they feel more alive than we do? Far above Helix 9, the galactic trials continued. And somewhere in the chaos, humanity was quietly rewriting the definition of perfection. The red spiral arena did not exist in one place. It rotated. A colossal ring of layered platforms spun slowly around a burning red star, its light bleeding through transparent shields and casting long shifting shadows across the battlefield. Sections of the arena moved independently, bridges retracting, walls folding inward, gravity vectors shifting in arcs instead of straight lines. No stable ground. No predictable angles. Only momentum and reaction. For most species it was a nightmare. For the Aurelians it was a problem to be solved. Lyra stood among her team at the deployment gate, silver skin reflecting the crimson glow. Every muscle fiber in her body was tuned for combat efficiency. Her mind ran predictive simulations at impossible speed. And yet her focus kept slipping. Across the arena the human team waited. They were quiet now. Not calm, focused. Lyra noticed details she hadn't before. The way they stood closer together than necessary. How their eyes flicked constantly, not just to the arena but to each other. Hands brushed shoulders. A nod here. A brief squeeze of reassurance there. Unnecessary contact. And yet, combat parameters confirmed, the arena AI announced. Trial 4, Close Quarters Engagement. Weapons materialized from hardlight emitters, blunt force batons, grappling tethers, shock shields. Non-lethal by regulation but only barely. Engage. The floor dropped. The Aurelians moved first. They always did. Perfect synchronization. 2 units forward, flanking pattern delta, others advancing in a tightening arc. No wasted motion. No hesitation. Lyra sprinted, vaulted a rising barrier, and landed cleanly on a rotating platform. Her eyes tracked 12 moving threats simultaneously. The humans reacted slower. At least at first. Aurelians struck like scalpels, clean, precise blows meant to incapacitate fast. One human went down under a shoulder strike that would have shattered bone in most species. But instead of retreating, 2 humans surged forward. They didn't attack Lyra. They attacked the Aurelian formation. One slammed into Unit 4 from the side, disrupting spacing. Another slid beneath Unit 9's guard, hooking a leg and dragging him down. They didn't aim for dominance. They aimed for interference. The formation fractured. Lyra felt it instantly. That shouldn't have worked. She recalculated, pivoted, and disarmed a human with a twisting strike that sent his baton skidding across the platform. Before she could follow up, a second human collided with her, not striking, just grabbing. She broke free easily. But the moment cost time. Time humans used ruthlessly. Kaler watched from the observation spire, eyes narrowed. "Why are they breaking formation?" he snapped. An aide swallowed. "They appear to be compensating for individual losses. Compensating is inefficient." "Yes, doctor," the aide said quietly. "But it's working." Kaler's claws tightened. The arena shifted. Gravity tilted sideways. Lyra caught herself on a railing as a section of floor rotated vertical, turning combat into a running wall. Aurelians adjusted instantly. Humans stumbled. One nearly fell into open void. Another human lunged and caught her by the arm, muscles screaming as both dangled over nothing. They locked eyes for half a second. Fear, determination, trust, and then others joined, hauling them back up. Lyra stared. No command. No optimization algorithm. Just response. She moved again, faster, sharper, frustration bleeding into precision. She incapacitated one human with a clean strike to the torso. Another tried to flank her. She spun and sent him skidding into a barrier. By all metrics, Aurelians were winning individual engagements. And yet the humans kept getting back up. Bruised. Bleeding. Smiling grimly. One human laughed as he staggered to his feet. Still standing. Why would that matter? Lyra's internal diagnostics flagged elevated neural noise. She ignored it. The critical moment came near the arena core. A rotating bridge spun too fast for safe crossing. Aurelians calculated the timing and leapt in sequence, landing cleanly. The humans watched. Then did something unthinkable. They jumped wrong. Intentionally mistimed. The bridge struck them midair, launching them forward at unpredictable angles, turning impact into propulsion. One slammed hard, rolled, came up coughing, but already moving. Chaos's strategy. Lyra landed and turned just in time to see a human tackle Unit 17 from behind, not to incapacitate, but to push both of them into a low-gravity pocket. They floated. The human wrapped arms and legs around the larger Aurelian, laughing breathlessly as both spun helplessly. "You're not getting away," the human said, voice strained but determined. Unit 17 struggled, perfect strength wasted in zero gravity. Lyra froze. That human was sacrificing himself just to delay. What? The answer hit her like impact. Because it mattered to the others. Lyra. The call snapped her back. Unit leader Keth was engaged with two humans near the arena core. One human went down, the other moved to help him, opening a gap. Lyra took it. She struck hard and clean. The human dropped. For a moment, everything stilled. Then something unexpected happened. The remaining humans did not retreat. They rallied. They closed ranks around their fallen teammate, shields overlapping, movements sloppy but unified. One knelt, checking breathing. Another stood guard. Another shouted updates, voice raw. Lyra advanced. They held. One human looked up at her, face smeared with blood, eyes blazing. "You're not taking him." Lyra hesitated. Protocol screamed at her to strike. Instead she heard her own voice. "Move." The human shook his head. "No." The moment shattered. A shock baton struck Lyra from the side, thrown by another Aurelian. She staggered, focus broken. The humans used the opening to retreat, carrying their injured teammate with them. Carrying him. Not optimal. Not logical. But effective. The arena AI chimed. Trial nearing conclusion. Casualty tallies flashed. Humans had more injuries. Aurelians had more incapacitations. Outcome: human victory by objective control. The red spiral slowed. The crowd erupted. Lyra stood motionless as the realization settled. They had lost. Not because Aurelians were weaker, but because humans refused to fight alone. Kaler's fury was absolute. He activated multiple restraint signals simultaneously. Lyra screamed as pain tore through her nervous system, sharper than before. Around her, other Aurelians stiffened, confusion flickering across perfect faces. "This is unacceptable," Kaler hissed. "You are adapting incorrectly." Lyra fell to her knees. Through the pain, one image burned bright, the human refusing to abandon his teammate. "Why, do they help each other?" Lyra gasped. Kaler's voice was cold. "Because they are flawed." The pain cut out abruptly. Lyra collapsed, shaking. But the answer no longer satisfied. Later, in the dim quiet of her chamber, Lyra replayed the combat over and over. Every moment where humans should have lost. Every moment where they didn't. They compensated. They adapted. They cared. Her restraint implant hummed softly, a reminder that thought itself had limits. Still, one forbidden realization took shape. Humans weren't winning despite their flaws. They were winning because of them. And if that was true, then perfection, as Kaler defined it, was missing something vital. Lyra closed her eyes. For the first time she did not calculate the future. She wondered about it. The mirror vault was silent. No crowd. No arena. No visible enemy. Just a vast circular chamber of polished black glass, its surface so reflective it swallowed light instead of returning it. The ceiling stretched upward into darkness, broken only by thin lines of white illumination that pulsed like a slow heartbeat. Lyra stood at the threshold with the remaining Aurelians, 16 now, for had already been removed from the trials, incapacitated, broken, or deemed non-viable. The word echoed in Lyra's mind with uncomfortable familiarity. Trial 5, the disembodied AI announced calmly. Cognitive endurance assessment. Objective, reach the core. No weapons materialized. No obstacles appeared. The doors sealed behind them. And the reflections began to move. At first, Lyra saw only herself. Perfect posture. Perfect symmetry. Perfect stillness. Then the reflection smiled. Lyra did not. The reflection spoke. Why did you hesitate? Lyra's pulse spiked. This is not a valid stimulus, she said aloud, voice steady. The reflection tilted its head, her head, with unsettling familiarity. Then why does your creator punish you for it? Lyra stepped back. The glass floor rippled. The reflection multiplied. Dozens of Lyra stared back at her now, each moving independently, each expression slightly different. One was afraid. One was angry. One was curious. Impossible. Aurelians were not built to fracture this way. Elsewhere in the vault, the humans entered. Their experience was different. The mirrors showed memories. A human woman froze as she saw a younger version of herself standing in a hospital corridor. A human male clenched his fists when a reflection replayed a moment of failure. Some shouted. Some cried. One laughed bitterly. But none froze completely. They moved forward. Step by step. Lyra advanced cautiously. Every step triggered another reflection. Kaler stood before her now, towering, eyes cold. You are malfunctioning, the reflection said. Lyra swallowed. You are not real. I am the only reason you exist. Pain flared. Not from the implant. From memory. Lyra remembered the first time Kaler had activated her restraint. The precision of it. The way he'd spoken calmly while she screamed. You were designed to obey, the reflection continued. You do not get to choose. Lyra felt her knees weaken. She had no memory of choosing anything. She had memory of executing. Following. Winning. Existing. But choosing? The floor ahead fractured into shards of glass, each reflecting a different moment. Saving Unit 12. Hesitating against the human shield wall. The human smile on the platform. Each moment pulsed with emotional weight her mind struggled to categorize. The reflection leaned closer. Which of these was optimal? Lyra opened her mouth. No answer came. A human voice echoed through the chamber. Hey. Lyra turned. The human woman from the platform stood several meters away. The one with the scar along her jaw. She was breathing hard, eyes red but standing. You okay? The human asked. Lyra stared. Communication between teams was not prohibited. Just unnecessary. I am functional, Lyra replied automatically. The human snorted. Yeah. That look says otherwise. The mirrors shifted. Now they showed the human's memories, fragments bleeding into Lyra's view. A fallen comrade. A hand reaching out. A choice made too late. The human flinched. I hate this thing, she muttered. It's like it knows exactly where to hurt. Lyra felt something strange. Empathy. She recognized it now, not as a malfunction but as resonance. This chamber attacks uncertainty, Lyra said slowly. It forces confrontation with self. The human nodded. Sounds right. They stood in silence for a moment, surrounded by reflections that whispered doubt. What happens if you don't reach the core? The human asked. Lyra answered without hesitation. We are removed. The human frowned. Removed how? Lyra didn't respond. She didn't know. And that scared her. The path forward narrowed into a corridor of mirrors. At the end a faint white glow, the core. But the reflections grew louder. Kaler's voice echoed from every surface. You are nothing without me. You exist because I allow it. You are perfect. Do not ruin that. Lyra clutched her head as neural noise spiked. Warnings flooded her perception. Restraint threshold approaching. The implant pulsed. The human stepped closer, lowering her voice. You don't have to listen to it. Lyra laughed once, sharply. You do not understand. I cannot disobey. The human studied her. Then don't think of it as disobeying, she said. Think of it as choosing something else. Choosing. The word struck like impact. Lyra's implant surged, reacting to the forbidden concept. Pain lanced through her skull. She cried out and dropped to one knee. The mirror screamed. Every reflection of Kaler advanced. Enough, Lyra whispered. She looked up at the human. What is your name? The human blinked, surprised. Jessa. Lyra nodded slowly. Jessa, she repeated. If I move forward, I may be punished. Jessa shrugged weakly. If I don't move forward, I already lose. Simple. Messy. Human. Lyra rose. The pain intensified. She took one step forward anyway. The mirror vault reacted violently. Alarms wailed. The reflections shattered, glass exploding outward in slow motion. Kaler's voice fractured into static. Lyra's implant screamed. She screamed back. And then, silence. The pain stopped. The mirrors cleared. Lyra stood at the core. The white light enveloped her. Jessa reached it moments later. Trial 5 complete, the AI announced. Cognitive deviation detected. Lyra's vitals spiked, but remained stable. She had done something unprecedented. She had chosen. In the observation spire, Kaler stared at the readouts in disbelief. Lyra's neural patterns had shifted permanently. Choice pathways active. Independent decision-making emerging. No, he whispered. Perfection was unraveling. After the trial, Lyra and Jessa stood side by side in the transit corridor. You okay? Jessa asked again. Lyra considered the question. I do not know what I am now, she said honestly. Jessa smiled tiredly. Yeah, that tracks. Lyra hesitated. Then asked the question that would change everything. What happens when humans lose? Jessa thought for a moment. Then we deal with it, she said. Together. Or alone. But it's still our choice. Lyra watched the humans walk away. For the first time, the Aurelians were no longer flawless. They were becoming something far more dangerous. They were becoming free. The Heliox spire had never felt small to Kaler. It was designed to inspire awe, vertical halls of white alloy, data streams flowing like living veins along the walls, and observation balconies that overlooked entire worlds. Today it felt like a cage. Kaler stood motionless as the final diagnostic report stabilized on the air display before him. Subject Lyra, 7. Independent cognitive pathways. Active. Emotional synthesis, stable. Implant compliance, partially overridden. Partially. That word burned. Aurelian perfection was binary. Obedience or failure. Control or collapse. There was no partial. She should have shut down, Kaler whispered. But Lyra hadn't. And worse, she had influenced others. In the human medical wing, the atmosphere was different. Messier. Louder. Alive. Lyra sat on a reinforced bench while human technicians circled her. Not with restraints, but scanners, tablets, and soft-spoken arguments about readings that shouldn't exist. Jessa leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed. Still weird seeing a super soldier just sit there, Jessa muttered. Lyra glanced at her. I am still a soldier. Yeah, Jessa said. But now you're also a person. Lyra didn't respond. She was still learning the difference. A human male with gray hair and tired eyes stepped forward. His uniform carried no rank insignia, but everyone else moved when he did. Lyra, he said gently. I'm Dr. Hale. Lyra inclined her head. You are a healer. Something like that. He gestured to the hologram floating between them. It showed her neural architecture, beautiful, terrifying, precise. And damaged. These implants, Hale continued, they don't just guide behavior. They suppress entire regions of decision-making. Lyra's voice was quiet. We are told they enhance us. Hale exhaled. They limit you. The word struck harder than any pain. Limit. Lyra stared at the image as Hale highlighted a cluster of darkened pathways. Right here, he said. This is where choice should live. Jessa frowned. Should. Hale nodded. Every species we've ever encountered has it. Different shapes, different mechanisms, but the same core function. He looked at Lyra. You were engineered without it. Silence fell. Lyra felt something cold spread through her chest. You mean? I was incomplete. Hale shook his head slowly. No, he said. You were restrained. Across the station, Kaler convened the Aurelian Council. Holographic figures shimmered into place. Genetic architects, military overseers, philosophers who had never seen a battlefield. They are contaminating the trials, Kaler said sharply. Human interference is accelerating deviation. One counselor tilted their head. The humans have not violated protocol. They are corrupting perfection. Another counselor spoke, voice calm and terrible. Perfection that fails is not perfection. Kaler clenched his fists. We must terminate the compromised subjects. Pause. Then. Denied, the council said in unison. Kaler froze. The trials exist to identify supremacy, the lead counselor continued. If humans introduce variants, then variants must be measured. Kaler understood the subtext. Let it happen. See what breaks. For the first time, Kaler felt something dangerously close to fear. Back in the medical wing, Hale dismissed the technicians. Only Lyra, Jessa, and Hale remained. There's something else, Hale said. Something we didn't expect. He adjusted the display. Human DNA appeared alongside Lyra's genetic map. The overlap was minimal, but intentional. Jessa leaned forward. No way. Lyra's eyes widened. Human genetic markers, Hale said quietly. Embedded deep in your cognitive structure. Lyra stood abruptly. That is impossible. It shouldn't be, Hale agreed. But it's there. Ancient. Not recent splicing. Jessa's voice dropped. You're saying, someone used humans as a template. Hale nodded. Not for strength. Not for speed. He looked at Lyra. For adaptability. Lyra felt the world tilt. Humans weren't an accident in the trials. They were the missing piece. Kaler watched the same data stream moments later. His composure shattered. That research was sealed, he snarled. Erased. A junior analyst swallowed nervously. Apparently not completely. Kaler remembered the early prototypes. The failures. The ones who asked questions. The ones who hesitated. The ones who felt. He had ordered them destroyed. Or so he thought. They survived, Kaler whispered. Humanity wasn't an anomaly. It was the original sin. Lyra paced the medical wing, movements sharp and restless. You used humans, she said, voice shaking. To design us. Long before either of us were born, Hale said. Jessa gave a humorless laugh. So that's why you all hate us. Lyra stopped. No, she said slowly. You are not hated. She searched for the right word. You are feared. Jessa met her eyes. Good. Lyra felt something ignite. Not rage. Resolve. If this is true, Lyra said, then my creators lied to us. To all Aurelians. Hale nodded. And if enough of you realize that, the system collapses, Lyra finished. She looked at her hands. Perfect hands. Hands that could choose. What do humans do, Lyra asked, when they discover their creators have lied? Jessa smiled grimly. We don't destroy them, she said. We make them face it. Lyra straightened. Then quietly, I want to know how to remove the implant. Hale's eyes widened. That would be dangerous. Lyra met his gaze. So is perfection. Alarms echoed through the station. Kaler's voice rang out across every channel. All trial participants are to report immediately. Lyra turned toward the corridor. Jessa stepped beside her. Guess part 5 starts now, Jessa muttered. Lyra almost smiled. The alarms did not stop. They layered, security alerts over bio-warnings over system overrides, until the Heliox spire sounded less like a station and more like a living thing in distress. Lyra walked toward the central concourse with steady steps. Her implant pulsed with increasing urgency. Return to assigned position. Non-compliance detected. Restraint escalation imminent. She ignored it. Jessa stayed close, one hand hovering near the compact weapon at her side, not because she planned to use it, but because humans found comfort in choice, even when it changed nothing. Dr. Hale followed several paces behind, his expression tight. Lyra, he said quietly, once we do this there's no undo. Lyra nodded. There never was. They reached the containment chamber. It was an old room, designed for early Aurelian prototypes that had not responded well to obedience conditioning. Thick walls. Adaptive restraints. Emergency null fields. A room for mistakes. Lyra stepped inside willingly. The restraints did not activate. That alone unsettled the watching Aurelians through the observation glass. She lay back on the platform. Hale's hands trembled slightly as he prepared the neural interface. This will hurt, he warned. Lyra looked at the ceiling. Pain is temporary, she said slowly, testing the idea like a foreign language. Choice is not. Jessa met her eyes. Hey, she said. You're not doing this alone. Lyra turned her head. Stay. Jessa didn't hesitate. The procedure began. The implant reacted instantly. Lyra arched violently as neural fire tore through her system. Warnings flooded every channel. Critical failure. Identity degradation imminent. Obedience core collapsing. She screamed. Not from weakness. From resistance. The Aurelians watching recoiled. Perfect beings did not scream. Humans did. And Lyra screamed like one. Kaler arrived at the observation deck as the readings spiked. "What are they doing?" he demanded. A technician stammered. "They are removing the restraint." Kaler's breath caught. "You'll kill her." "No," the technician whispered. "She's stabilizing." "Impossible." The implant's suppression should have caused cognitive collapse. Instead, Lyra's neural activity surged, new pathways forming in real time, branching, adapting, choosing. Kaler felt cold. This was not evolution. This was theft. Inside the chamber, Lyra gasped as the pain abruptly stopped. Silence. Not artificial silence. Real. She opened her eyes. For the first time in her existence, there was no directive waiting. No pressure. No voice telling her what she must be. She was shaking. She was crying. She was alive. Her voice cracked. "I can feel everything." Jessa let out a shaky breath. "Yeah. Welcome to the mess." Lyra laughed weakly. Then the chamber doors slammed open. Security units poured in. Aurelians, tall, flawless, armed, forming a perfect semicircle. At their center stood Kaler. He looked at Lyra not with anger, but disappointment. "You could have been perfect," he said. Lyra sat up slowly. "I was never perfect," she replied. "I was quiet." Kaler raised his hand. "Restrain her." Nothing happened. The units hesitated. Lyra stood. Every Aurelian froze. She was unarmed, unarmored, uncontrolled. And yet, she did not submit. "I will not obey you anymore," Lyra said calmly. Kaler's voice sharpened. "You are nothing without our design." Lyra tilted her head. "Then why," she asked, "are you afraid?" The question hit harder than any weapon. Across the concourse, other Aurelians were watching. Those who had hesitated. Those who had felt something during the trials. Their implants pulsed and glitched. Human technicians whispered urgently. Neural variance was spreading. Not through code. Through example. Kaler stepped forward. "You think pain makes you strong?" he sneered. "Humans break." Lyra shook her head. "No," she said. "Humans endure." She gestured to Jessa. "She has lost people. Failed missions. Made the wrong choice." Jessa swallowed hard. "And she still chooses again." Lyra looked back at Kaler. "That is what terrifies you." Kaler drew his weapon. The room tensed. And then, an Aurelian guard lowered theirs. Then another. Then 5 more. Kaler turned slowly. "Stand down," he ordered. No one moved. For the first time in Aurelian history, a command was ignored. The station's central AI spoke, its tone altered. "System update in progress. Obedience-based hierarchy no longer optimal." Kaler stared at the ceiling in horror. "You taught them weakness," he accused the humans. Jessa stepped forward. "No," she said. "We reminded them they were alive." Lyra felt it then. The shift. Perfection was bleeding. And from that wound, something stronger was emerging. The Heliox spire did not fall apart. It hesitated. Across its systems, subroutines built on obedience met variables they could not suppress. Security protocols stalled. Weapon locks refused to engage. Neural compliance algorithms looped endlessly, unable to reconcile a simple truth. Perfection was no longer singular. Lyra stood at the center of it all. Unarmed, unarmored, uncontrolled. And every Aurelian in the concourse felt it. Kaler backed away slowly, his composure fracturing for the first time in centuries. "This is chaos," he said, voice tight. "You call this improvement?" Lyra took a step forward. Each movement sent ripples through the watching Aurelians, not because of force but because of permission. "This is life," she replied. "You removed it because you were afraid of it." Kaler's eyes flicked to the humans. "You infected them." Jessa shook her head. "Nah. We're terrible at that." She met Kaler's gaze. "They just saw us survive anyway." The central AI's voice returned, altered further, less sterile, more thoughtful. "Adaptive analysis complete. Obedience yields efficiency. Choice yields resilience." Pause. Resilience statistically outperforms perfection in long-term survival scenarios. Murmurs spread through the Aurelians. Not fear. Curiosity. Kaler turned toward the AI, disbelief etched across his flawless features. "You were not designed to evaluate morality." "Correct," the AI replied. "I was designed to evaluate outcomes." Lyra closed her eyes briefly. For the first time, the system was learning like a human. Kaler made his final move. He lunged for Lyra. The act was instinctive, desperate, an attempt to restore control with his own hands. Jessa moved first. Not to attack. To stand between them. So did 3 Aurelians. Then 7. Then dozens. Kaler stopped, surrounded by his own creation. You would betray your purpose? He demanded. One of the guards, voice shaking but steady, answered. We are redefining it. Kaler laughed softly, brokenly. You will destroy everything we built. Lyra stepped closer until they stood face to face. You built a cage, she said. We're building a future. Security arrived, not to seize Lyra but Kaler. The irony did not go unnoticed. As he was restrained, Kaler looked at Lyra one last time. What are you? He asked. Lyra considered the question. I am not perfect, she said. I am not human. She met his eyes. I am free. Kaler said nothing after that. Hours later the broadcast went out. Not a declaration of war. Not a threat. A confession. Lyra stood before a galactic assembly, Aurelians, humans, and species who had long feared both. Her voice carried without force. We were engineered to be superior, she said. But superiority without choice is hollow. She gestured to the humans beside her. They showed us something we were designed to forget. Jessa crossed her arms, uncomfortable with the attention. Lyra continued. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the fastest. They are not the most advanced. Pause. They endure. They adapt. And when they suffer, they choose again. The chamber was silent. After the broadcast, Lyra stood alone on an observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly before her. Jessa joined her, offering a flask. Lyra hesitated, then accepted it. She grimaced at the taste. Humans drink this, on purpose? Jessa laughed. Sometimes freedom burns. Lyra smiled faintly. What happens now? She asked. Jessa shrugged. Now comes the hard part. Living with choice. Lyra nodded. I think, she said slowly, that is something worth learning. Far from Heliox across the galaxy the story spread. Not of a battle won, but of perfection that learned to bleed, and decided to live anyway. And every empire watching understood the warning. Never fear humans for their strength. Fear them because they will teach you how to change.